had completely forgotten about the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold until Google actually shipped us the review unit. But here's the thing, I just don't understand the point of the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It's a phone that's trying to just exist in 2025 when there are other phones like the Z Fold 7, the Vivo X Fold 5, all of which are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Despite that, I was willing to give this one a chance and we tested it out here. And well, yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Anyway, if you're watching me for the first time, I'm Ashad. This is Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. The first thing that stands out to me is that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is thicker and heavier than the Z Fold 7 and the X Fold 5 that I've been testing lately. And the thought that pops in my head is that Samsung and Vivo are like fighting to get the foldable feel more like a regular candy bar flagship phone. And in comparison, the 10 Pro Fold feels, well, like a foldable. Although credit where credit is due, I like the fact that you have curves around the edges or the corners of the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. This makes it more comfortable to hold and use because it doesn't dig into your palms like the sharp edges of the Z Fold 7 does. But more importantly, Google made the Pixel 10 Pro Fold the first foldable phone in the world to come with IP68 rating. Honestly, I never expected that Google would be first to anything when it comes to hardware, so this is definitely a refreshing change. Apart from that, on the top of the display, you also do get Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 protection, which adds to the durability factor of it. In fact, even the rear glass is protected by the same Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 protection. Now, one other change that Google's engineers have done is that they've actually made the hinge slimmer, but more importantly, it's a gearless hinge. So when you open and close, it actually feels very smooth compared to the other foldables. So overall, when you look at the durability aspect of a foldable, I think that Google has done a very good job with the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It's almost as durable or even more so than the Z Fold 7. By the way, there's one thing I noticed while testing is that when you place both these foldables, basically the 10 Pro Fold and the Z Fold 7 flat on a surface, see this? It sits flat. One thing I forgot to mention is that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is actually a short and stocky foldable. It's very wide, so you can't really grip it easily if you have small hands. I have big hands, so it's okay. But generally people with smaller hands would find the Z Fold 7 to be more comfortable to grip completely. Also, one tiny thing I must definitely mention is that the display is too rounded at the corners if you look at it, and it doesn't align with the squared off edges on the top left corner, so it looks like an unfinished CAD render design, honestly. All that said, design and build quality and durability is actually pretty good on the 10 Pro Fold and is the least of my concerns. And you know what? Neither is the display of the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. The cover display is a 6.4-inch 120Hz OLED panel with 3000 nits of peak brightness as well. It's technically a crisp, bright and a very good display, very similar to what we saw with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Even the color tuning is on spot here. Plus you get HDR video playback on YouTube and Netflix. All of that is sorted. Even the HDR gradation, very premium level. No problem there. Which is also true for the inner display. Again, similar specs, similar 120Hz refresh rate, similar 3000 nits of peak brightness, really good panel. But the problem with these displays is the fact that they look like they're from 2018 with the extremely thick bezels around them. While the bezels shouldn't matter to most people in regular usage, when you actually take a look at the Pixel 10 Pro Fold right next to something like the Z Fold 7, you see that, I think Google was playing it a little too safe. In fact, I feel like they were being a little too callous. Even if you can live with the bezel situation, you cannot escape the fact that the crease is visible, and when you're swiping across the inner foldable display when it is open, you can actually feel the dent too. Now, despite the massive bezels and of course the crease, I feel like the display is alright. I'm not going to complain too much about it. But performance on the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is where the entire narrative completely falls apart. See, we've already spoken about Tensor G5 at length, and it is not a fitting flagship chipset, not even on the Pixel 10. So on the 10 Pro Fold, which costs 1.7 lakh, yeah, it's not looking good. Because it added to the Pixel scores 1.5 million, the Z Fold 7 is nearly 50% faster. Geekbench also tells the same story. The Fold 7 destroys it in multi-core performance. Fun fact, the Vivo X Fold 5 with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is going to be more powerful than the Tensor G5 inside the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. Now, even if you didn't have so much headroom for performance, it would have been okay if it didn't throttle under sustained load, but that's not true for the 10 Pro Fold. Google does throttle the performance of the Tensor G5 inside the 10 Pro Fold. So we ran the CPU throttle test and the CPU stability was only 59%. 15%. This is a 30-minute run that we always do. So if you're doing any resource intensive task, this phone is going to throttle under stress. And I know that a lot of Pixel apologists will tell you that no, you don't need that kind of performance. You do need that kind of performance, even if you're not a gamer. Think about it. Like, a lot of people are shooting Instagram videos and reels and they're actually editing on their phone itself. Now, the editing performance is not going to be great on the 10 Pro Fold because you don't have that performance throughput. And even in daily performance, there are times when the phone stutters, which is not good for a phone that costs upwards of 1.5 lakhs. And if you're thinking about gaming, then don't think, because the Genshin Impact performance was not great. We got about 45 FPS average on Genshin Impact after a 30-minute session, which is nowhere close to the 59 FPS that we got with the Z Fold 7. In fact, the Z Fold 7, despite being thinner, actually runs cooler than the 10 Pro Fold. While the phone can hit 60 FPS, it does throttle performance immediately after it reaches a certain temperature. So the Pixel 10 Pro Fold in 2025 is a foldable phone that is very premium, but performs like a mid-range phone. Alright, now let's talk about the cameras inside this very weirdly shaped camera module. What you get is a 48 megapixel primary camera, 10.5 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10.8 megapixel 5x periscope camera. But again, these specs are not at the level of the Pixel 10 Pro XL. However, the pictures are also very similar to the Pixel 10 Pro XL actually. Now, when you take a look at the 1x shot with the primary camera at 100% crop, we did notice some post-processing that adds some artifacts when you zoom in, but generally it's fine. The 2x shots are okay too, they're pleasing to look at until you pixel peep. 3x weirdly enough looks good because we tried it out and the photos do look nice. The 5x 10.8 megapixel periscope could have been a higher resolution sensor, although I still feel like the details are fine. And even when you zoom further, Google leans very heavily on AI. So if you go to like 20x, you can see that there's a lot of post-processing happening and the pictures do look good enough. Now, with respect to colors, especially when you're shooting landscape shots, they're fairly balanced and there's nothing to complain here per se. However, out of the box, the skin tones are slightly off. I mean, they're not entirely off as the Pixel 9 Pro XL last year or the 9 Pro Fold last year. They're still slightly reddish, a little more reddish than I would have ideally preferred. However, that's not really true for the 5x camera, because of the 5x, when you zoom in and take photos, the skin tones are actually closer to real life. One thing that the 10 Pro Fold gets right, similar to the 10 Pro XL, is definitely the HDR tuning, because you do get a very good control over the highlights and the shadows. And Pixel's been doing this right. However, it does have a problem with the color reproduction in HDR shots because it tends to boost the colors, which is not true for when it's a non-HDR shot. In low light shots, I felt like the night sight algorithm does a fairly good job of retaining the details and giving you a good shot generally, whether you're shooting with the 1x or with the 5x telephoto. But the same cannot be said for the ultra wide. The ultra wide actually lacks in details, especially low light. However, the biggest problem with the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is the same problem that we had with the 10 Pro XL, and that is the fact that the portraits are, not worthy of the price tag that it's demanding. Now, obviously, the portraits are not that great, but the selfies are not bad. Actually, the selfies are pretty good. I like the 6 selfies that we got from the 10 Pro Fold, similar to what we got with the 10 Pro XL. Now, video recording wise, of course, you can shoot 4K 60 FPS using all the lenses, which is pretty good. And the quality of the video, especially when you shoot in daylight, is good as well. Having said that, in low light, Pixel tends to again depend on AI for improving the quality of the footage itself with the video boost technology, which I'm not really a fan of. It does reduce the noise, but it introduces a lot of other artifacts. Plus, it takes a lot of time to process. So you'll have to give it to the gallery and then it goes to the cloud, processes, gets it back to you. Yeah. So overall, if you look at it, a phone like the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 would be more reliable for, shots of people, shots of landscapes, and also for, in general, video recording as well. Even the Vivo X Fold 5, I don't even have to say it is a fantastic camera phone when it comes to foldables. Pixel, good enough, but not there. Not quite there, I would say. The best thing about the Pixel 10 Pro Fold has to be the software experience, because what you get is stock Android Android Pixel experience for Android 16, and you also have the promise of 7 years of operating system updates from Google, which is very reassuring. And the reason why I say software experience is great is not because of the Material 3 expressive design, which is nice. A lot of people don't like it, but I kind of like it. But more importantly, it's the AI experiences that are baked into the whole phone itself. For example, I've been dailying the 10 Pro XL and I cannot live without Gemini Live or Gemini in general. There are so many things that Gemini Live can do that a lot of other phones, Apple Intelligence, cannot. Having said that, since this is a foldable phone, I wanted more foldable specific experiences with the software, which wasn't really happening. While you do have the app dock, which is available at any given point of time, you can only open 2 apps in split screen, which is obviously problematic. You cannot do multiple apps in multitasking like you can do with the Samsung Z Fold 7. You can open like 3 apps and more apps on top of it as floating windows, of course. And foldable specific features are also limited to camera, which I think every other brand does. Yes, you can use the cover screen as your viewfinder, but it's not not novel. Having said that, overall the redeeming factor of the Pixel 10 Pro Fold has to be the software experience. Now finally talking about the battery, thankfully Google has increased the battery size. Now it's a large 5015 mAh battery that you get inside the phone, and we're actually getting good battery life. The battery tuning has been done really well, so you can expect about 1 to 1.5 days of usage. 1 day of very heavy usage, 1.5 day of moderate usage, which is good. But the charging speed is still excruciatingly slow. 30 watts at the top end, it charges very slowly, and considering it's a large battery, it takes a long time to charge as well. And another fundamental problem with the charging is that yes, you do get wireless charging with Pixel Snap support, but it tops out at Qi2 with 15 watts, which is actually Qi 2.2 at 25 watts on the Pixel 10 Pro XL. So this is some sort of cost cutting that Google has done here, which again, this is the most expensive phone, Google, that you make. You need to have the best features on it. See, overall, if you look at it, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold has a durable design with the IP68 rating, which definitely gives it brownie points. And apart from that, the cameras are serviceable, not bad. The software experience is fantastic, especially with the Gemini integration and the AI experiences that you get. Plus the fact that Google is also supporting this phone with 7 years of OS update promise. And like I said, despite the large bezels, the display quality is very good too. And this year, the battery shouldn't be a problem either, because we're getting decent battery life as well. But the problem really starts with the fact that the phone is prohibitively expensive for something that has the Tensor G5 inside. You can possibly live with everything else, but can you live with the fact that you have a phone that does like 45 FPS on Genshin Impact and you're paying 1.8 lakh rupees for it? Yeah, even if you don't care about that, and even if you're a regular user, you're definitely going to notice the fact that the phone does stutter in daily usage as well, because there is no performance headroom for you to play with. Tensor G5 inside the Pixel 10 or even the upcoming Pixel 10a, I can understand. But the 10 Pro XL, the 10 Pro and the 10 Pro Fold, which are over a lakh. In fact, the 10 Pro Fold is about a lakh and 70. Yeah, that's a lot of money you're asking Google for this capability. Also for next year, I would like to see a more modern design. One that embraces thinness, because that's what foldables are heading towards. Definitely not the 10 Pro Fold though. Alright, those are my thoughts on the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. I know that a lot of people probably don't even care about the phone, and very few people might end up buying it. See, if you want a Pixel phone, I have a video recommending which Pixel phone you should buy, so definitely go check that out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.